So we all know that this government is, or all national governments are successively anti-worker. That's just a given. But even in just
All
the
the
last
governments.
week, or just even in just the last week, revealed that this government is continuing to cannibalize new funds already in the budget to fund new programs with no new funding. For example, 413 million for school upgrades, only 58 million of it is in new funding, 20 million for emergency departments already in the budget. So assumedly that's going to be cut from other programs within the New Zealand health budget, along with the PM unwilling to talk to union leaders because they were mean to him. Education Minister Erica Stanford pulling out of the PPTA annual conference last minute while lying about teacher shortages. Multiple ministers, including Judith Collins, lying about teachers' salaries. My question to you, Lennox, across this whole thing, just this last week, is this the most anti-worker government since the first national government?
I don't know if I'll put it like this. Do you what makes you apart from them not talking to the union leaders maybe being a bit misleading about the salaries of teachers? How do you feel that this government is anti-worker?
Well, a lot of that funding for for education and health involves a lot of working people doing those jobs and also benefiting
Mhm.
from the funding that it brings, and then the services that it brings for everyday
Mhm.
people. That's for one.
Mhm.
I mean, the head of the head of the CTU, the national secretary, I believe that he revealed that Luxon refused to talk to him is representing all unions or most unions in this country who represent the workers, along with, I mean, for more this is just last week. This is literally just last week. You've also got Erica Stanford, who is not even willing to talk to the PPTA, one of the teaching, and because of industrial action caused by her government, it's the most successive, the highest amount of union activity, union strikes since probably the 80s, definitely the
Mhm.
70s.
Mhm.
I mean, what can you say other? I mean, falls short definitely of the first government of Sydney Holland, I believe, during the dock workers' strike, but they're definitely up there. I mean, I can't seem. I'm not. No, I'm going to say that I can't remember because I wasn't alive back then. But I can't. Looking back at it, it doesn't seem to me that any other, even national prime ministers, were unwilling to talk to the
Mhm.
people that they represent, even if they didn't
Mhm.
vote for them.
Yeah, look, I don't think that they're that most anti-worker. I don't feel that they're from my perspective, I don't feel like they're anti-worker. If I didn't look at any of the stuff that you've just stated, I wouldn't feel like they're anti-worker
What makes you
personally.
think they aren't? Like, is there anything that you can say?
Well, my
Why don't what? Yeah,
just from personal experience, my personal experience, I don't, as a worker, it has got any harder. I feel like it's actually got a lot easier under this government compared to the previous government. That's all, you know, a personal experience and a personal reflection from myself without looking at any of the recent things that have happened with the strikes and them not wanting to talk to the unions. I mean, I don't want to talk to the unions, and I am a worker, so
right. But you're not an elected official. You're not leading this country. It's
no,
all
absolutely, absolutely, and I get that, but you know,
because
I think
even and John Key, I can imagine, was no friend. Even I mean, correct me if I'm wrong down in the comments, but even during the National Party during euthanasia, they had some conversation, some good faith conversation with unions,
mhm,
even if they
mhm.
even if there was the utmost outrage. But this just seems like one of a kind of a government that just seems to And I don't know if it's the influence of the ACT Party. There just seems to be this contempt towards people that they dread they have to even think about. That they have to. I mean, not going past this last week, even the family boost, the fact that they've not even bothered and made it as difficult as possible to have everyday Kiwis get the help that they need, even though that was a huge policy that they ran on, that a lot of people voted for them. They made every single, admin down it's difficult as possible for them to get that fund, to get that money, $250 a fortnight. I don't know. And again, this is also from my perspective, and a lot of people are saying it, but this is from my perspective of someone that's getting into politics at a pretty recent time. This is the first term that I've fully made sense of it. Last year was kind of when I've started to get fully in the weeds of it. So it is a very recent term of history. So I wouldn't say I'm naive, but I'm not as experienced as other people. So I'm willing to hear what other people who have experienced different successive governments, what their opinion is. But to me, it's just this government has no concept. Even during even well past worker policy, even well past industrial relations, just in general, this government just doesn't seem to really have a finger on the pulse. In the leadership, more specifically, I'm sure there's MPs there that have gotten an understanding there, but in the leadership team, it just doesn't seem there's any wherewithal. I mean, during John Key, it feels like they had a concept of what the country's psyche was. There was a feeling of something being better. Might have been misplaced, sure, but it was there. It doesn't seem like Luxon understands it. He doesn't seem to understand this country, really.
I don't know. I guess they aren't doing as good a job as some of the other governments with this kind of in particular thing. I'm not saying that they are or they aren't, but I think they've got. You got to look at it like this: as a very challenging time in every aspect of politics and of what they're doing because of the current circumstance that we find ourselves in. So
Yeah, because of this government, because of the choices that
no,
this government made. I mean, the country was
no.
growing during election year, last year, not last year, sorry, 2023, and then the successive trending up afterwards after National won was because of the plan set in motion by the Labour government. I mean, all the houses that National touted as being built was funded by the Labour budgets. It only is recently we've been affected by economic downturn is because of the choices National inputted and the psyche that has been set upon this country, telling everyone that we need to cut. Everything's going to be everything shit, everything terrible, causing everyone to save and not spend. It is because of this. All the choices here, the whole feeling of greyness and dullness. Everyone's feeling. I'm feeling, and then the no hope, more dull than under and in COVID. Is because of this government. It is directly because of this government. There is no direction. There's no leadership. There's nothing. It's just a grey goo of just slop. I could keep rambling on, but it's because of this government.
Yeah, no, and hey, everyone's got that. I feel as though it's a shame because I feel like they're doing the best job they can with what they've been given.
They have cut tens of billions of fund of any revenue to this government, and in turn cut many things to help everyday working Kiwis, and cut cut the industry, cut the infrastructure pipeline that Labor set in place, guaranteeing an actual vision for this country to set a guarantee of flow of infrastructure and working. And what are you making that face for, mate?
Hey,
Okay.
I can't even see my face. I was just looking at the camera.
You just threw me off.
Sorry.
Infrastructure pipeline that guaranteed a true vision for this country. You're not seen since the Think Big projects at least, and even then, our economic management was way better than Muldoon. Let me tell you that much, mate. Can you cut that out, please? The fuck are you
Well,
doing?
I can't even see my
You
face,
look like
man.
you're
My
tweaking
face
out.
is down here.
Looks
I'm
like
just
you've
looking at
taken fucking ketamine and you're tweaking.
Oh,
It's
really?
your eyes are bulging like a fucking
Oh, crack up.
where
Crack
was
up.
I?
Sorry.
There was and the National just binned it, and they've got the gall. They've got the gall to say, "Oh, well, why won't Labor work with us? Why won't Labor work with us?" National didn't bloody work with them. What's this hypocrisy? Everything's been cut because they want their own identity on it, or they want their own boys on the ground. So it's all. I forgot what you said before because you just threw me off. But everything that Labor studied, the country was growing. Country was growing 2% in 2021. It was growing just under 1% during the election year. And we're shrinking. And in the successive quarters, we were growing was because of Labor's budgets that were set in place. And then it's
Yeah,
only
but
recently, during the changes, it is because of this country.
yeah, but
Partly.
everything was getting so expensive under the previous government, if you don't remember.
Sure, things were heating
Inflation
up.
was through the roof, mate.
It was only 7% during the height of COVID 2020, and it was trending downwards. It was already trending downwards. Let me tell you that much. It was already trending downwards. And yes, okay, right. The economy was heating up, but there was a trend. It was trending downwards anyway. That's why you saw the country was lower not interest rates. What's the word? Inflation was dropping. Even was curving down, trending down under in 2023, going into 2024. And that's what National takes credit for. But it was the result of Labor. Everything was trending down. It was only National caused another self-inflicted recession, claiming that in 2023 we were in a recession. We weren't. That's completely false. It's because of National. Like, yes, everything was expensive, but it was because of successive inflation, of course, but also because of COVID. It's because of
I
COVID
get
and the
that.
global recession.
I get that, but the thing is right, is this.
I want to. Sorry. I just want to say last thought, and then I want to do a last question, and then we'll move on to the next thing. Just carry on.
I've forgotten anyway. We'll just move on.
You'll get your thought.
Come back to it.
Okay, fine. Yeah. I want to stay on that 413 million for school upgrades. 58 million of it is in new funding, and 20 million for ED extra funding for EDs, emergency departments. Do you think that we're not funding our core services enough, specifically health and teachers? You said yourself that we don't pay our teachers enough, and that's as a result of underfunding. Do you think we need to put more in the budget?
Yeah, definitely for education. Education is something that is very can't be 100% privatized, because there's always going to be someone, or there's always going to be people that is going to affect too much, and then they some kids aren't going to you know get a very good education if we 100% privatize education, and if we don't fund the teachers' salaries properly.
Isn't that the
All
same?
that's going to happen is we're going to lose teachers, and then we're going to have another problem to deal with. So we're going to have that problem, and then we're going to have a problem of actually having the staff to man the schools.
Isn't that the same as health in our hospitals? I mean, there was a One News report just as of this recording on Monday night. So a woman who was injured had to go in ED, and even that anecdotal report that the whole ED in the Christchurch airport, Christchurch hospital, I think I did see airport hospital, was overcrowded and and understaffed, and she had to leave her bed because someone else needed it more because there weren't enough beds. I mean, by your own admission, when it comes to education, doesn't that apply to the health system? People will not be able to afford a private system.
I don't know. I think there should be more private hospitals. I mean, I'm not saying that it should be completely privatized, but private hospitals are definitely a good thing.
Why? I want to move on, but I just want to ask you why.
Well, because I don't think it's that expensive for health insurance.
You want to know? You want to know why I don't think? Oh, you carry on, but you want to know why I don't think it's as expensive as people seem to think?
Why?
It's because of the public system. It's because the fact that the public system is some semblance of it's still there. It still works.
Yes,
People have a
yeah.
choice. So the
Oh,
private health system needs to compete effectively. If there was no public
and
system, or it was
definitely,
terrible.
definitely. I'm not absolutely not saying we should have um, a a system like the States, but if there was more private hospitals, then you know, and the people that could afford private insurance got private insurance and used those hospitals, then all the broke people, could then use the public system, and it wouldn't then be under so much strain.
I mean, that goes into question of doesn't that create a psyche? And because obviously politicians will start to use private health, doesn't that create a psyche of separation with not understanding how, and a stigma for public hospitals? But I've got another question for you on that. Should new private hospitals and new private ventures be publicly subsidized, or in tax cuts, or any funding measure, anything?
I
Should the
think I
government
think
help?
if I think if you're talking about funding, probably doesn't, no. But if there's rebates and things like that, I think that the government can help in that way, because at the end of the day, the more private hospitals and stuff that we have, and that kind of thing is going to help the country. So rebates and stuff, yes. Funding, I don't think that's necessary.
Private hospitals and private healthcare shouldn't exist. Full stop. Should be completely public. Obviously, dentists are an issue, but there should be a pathway towards getting more dentists into the system. Better, better compensated health workers. Bob's your uncle. It shouldn't be a private system. Full stop. It is predatory.
Well, I think there should be a private system, but I don't think that it should. I think there should always be the public system. But if if there was more private hospitals and private healthcare, whatever, then it will take strain off the public system theoretically.
I mean, we could go all on that. I've got another question for you, but I'm gonna hold off on that. Anything? Do you remember what you were gonna say on that? That last thing that I
Uh
interrupted you on?
no, no, I keep that's all right. I'll tell you when it gets to me, and I'll write it down, and we'll insert it.
Cool. A few days ago, Auckland City Council voted 18 to 5 to vote for a stripping of the current zoning laws set in 2016 and increasing a target of 2 million housing.
Yeah.
The target to increase of 2 million more homes, which includes more high-rise housing intensification around rail networks. It's this new plan to, along with a new plan to have better zoning laws around public transportation and more specifically railway. I've got a wider conversation on housing, on building up instead of building out in terms of suburbia and high rise and apartment building. But I've got a hypothetical question for you. Where would you rather live, Lennox? Would you rather live in an apartment in the city with robust, cheap public transport, or in a house in a suburban neighborhood with an SUV, going to work, taking in your travel to work taking 30 minutes to an hour?
Well, the thing is, I would prefer the city. There's certain things that you cannot do in the city that you can do in suburbia, like like having the odd barbecue with the boys, having beers,
Well, you
swim
can
in the
do that.
pool.
Public parks.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm not gonna have. You're not gonna have barbecue in a public park
Yes,
unless
you
you're
can.
fucking insane. Like you can, but
I mean, it's not a cultural norm because in this country there's more suburban focus. There's less. I mean, there are apartments, but it's a more suburban sprawl in this country, so the culture's not there. But yeah, absolutely can.
you can. But like,
Or you can
who's
just start a bonfire in your apartment if you're feeling saucy. Um,
no, yeah. So there's certain things you can't do in the built up high rises. However, I love the city personally, so I would live in the city. But um, yes, suburban living is definitely pretty good too.
so it
If you weigh it up,
depends.
it's probably better to live in the city.
I guess it depends on the city, but I've got another question that I didn't write down, but I'm really interested to know that you do, because I had on my last show that came out yesterday or today as of this recording, I had the sentiment I don't like the National Party. I never do. I don't think I ever will. But I think there is an element in that party, as I said in the last show, that there is an element in the National Party called abundance liberalism. And effectively, what that is, I characterize that as Chris Bishop, someone that wants to see housing prices dropped, but also wants to see better, less stringent building regulations, that less zoning, constrictive zoning regulations for more mixed use housing, for specifically, a shop on the ground floor, and then on top of that shop you have apartments. That's what I mean by mixed housing, mixed zoning rather, and more higher density living, less NIMBYs influencing the conversation. You got the whole problem with Eden Park and their concerts, because everywhere you look has housing, and they all complain about the noise, even though that's where they live. Do you subscribe to the idea that we can't really keep building family homes? We can't keep building suburbia, because that will deepen the current the traffic impact. And do you think that we need to start building upwards rather, and less, which would, I mean, I could keep going on the benefits of building more apartments, but do you subscribe to that?
It's hard because I think that it's probably for the best in the long run, to stop congestion, to stop, well, it won't stop congestion, but it will hopefully limit it. It will, the infrastructures in the city already, and, building more there will help. But, on the other side of the coin, I like suburban living. It's good.
I'm not fond of it, to be honest. I currently live with my parents, and it's shit. It's great, but it's like it's just far from everywhere. I mean, I had that problem when I was at school. I went to school in the city for a large chunk of my life, and I'd take the train in, and the train's good in Wellington. It's brilliant. It isn't as good as it used to be, but it works. And the new funding for the new trains on these lines that the government announced, love it, love to see it. But it's not great, and it stunts your not social ability, your ability to go out. It's better. I mean, put it this way: conscious, what's the word? Mentally. If you're living in an apartment, right? If you're a family, whatever, or a townhouse rather, in a townhouse close to the city, in a walking distance towards a pub or a playground with other people, and it's not just a school or a workplace, it's outside of those things. Wouldn't that, this is adding another conversation, so I'm tangenting here, wouldn't that decrease antisocial behavior by an
Well, I
extent,
don't
the
know,
fact that
because
people are combined in their own little house?
well, to be honest, actually, the city is actually less, is more antisocial than actually suburbia, because I live in suburbia here, and the people around in my neighborhood, actually, we all talk to each other, we all know each other. It's a small town sort of
It's a small,
vibe.
but you live in a small town. Yeah.
However, it's so. I think it could add to the antisocial behaviour, actually, because there's so many
Okay.
people around. It could, on the other side.
Why? What do you? I kind of get what you're getting at, but
Because so many people are all bunched in together that they don't want to be talking to anyone because of how close they already are to people. So they become less they do not want to actually talk to people outside of the house or outside of work or outside of school. They actually prefer, in my view, to if they're living in a big built-up city, all they want to do is go home. They might go out on a weekend, they might socialise a wee bit, but generally, it's still, from my experience, there's still a lot of antisocial behaviour.
Oh, there's always going to be people. I don't know if you classify graffitiing as so antisocial or people shooting up meth in the parking lot. That's my everyday experience in Wellington ever since this government came into town. But there's always going to be
I've never
people.
seen that in Wellington.
No, I'm just joking. That doesn't happen at all. But you know what I mean, right? There are people. Of course, there are people that are going to be. Can't say that word, the C word. But I mean, the whole isn't it? It seems to me that you would be better off. Look, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not. I don't have a degree, and I'm just thinking from my own opinion and my own experience. But you do think it's much more structurally and infrastructurally sound and less impact on. We need to build more roading. If we build, a building for 200 people rather than 200 houses, which involves a lot more sewage pipeline stretched out, a lot more water, sewage, power output, a lot more roading. I mean, if you have a 250 with a bus station or more concentration, better public transport, less need for cars, and people who actually need cars for work and other stuff actually can not be stuck in a gridlock. Now that's the utopia. I don't think that's going to happen in the next 10 years, but that's the utopia. That's the idea. I think we can actually get to it in this country a lot more than other countries because we are so sparsely populated. We can afford railway, trains. We can do it. Anything else?
Nothing else on this. I'm just thinking about it, but nothing else.
Yeah, but you do think that, less suburbia.
I'd love to live in the city. I'd love to live in the city, but I love suburbia at the same time.
I don't know. I'm half and half on it. It depends on the play. It depends on it. I mean, New Zealand suburbia is better than American suburbia. I've been to the United States briefly, but it's hell. It is better here. There are more amenities. The public transportation in suburban landscapes and where I live is much better, but it doesn't beat more centralized living. Is there any thoughts across the month? Because it's the end of the month.
Yes. Well, across the month, I think it's been very interesting. Obviously, more problems than actually good things that have happened. Actually, the changes to for employees and employers with the sick leave and annual leave.
What about that? That's another anti-worker policy.
I mean, actually,
it's not. That was hyperbole. That was hyperbole. The one thing I have a problem with is the fact that they've cut sick leave in half. But the other one, I thought everyone.
No, they haven't. If you think about it, they have not actually cut it in half. They have cut it in half for people that are part-time workers.
Right, but the fact that it's accruing, like the sick leave's accruing, that seems a bit absurd.
Well, it just means there's no more. It actually benefits the worker. So what's happened is part-time workers. So some snot-nosed kid that works with you who does 10 hours, 20 hours a week at the moment gets 10 sick days. Same as you who works full-time, or someone who works full-time would get. Now that it accrues, it means that one, it's fair on the full-time workers get 10, part-time workers get 5, and it also means that you don't have to wait 6 months now. And when it comes into force, you won't have to wait 6 months before you can use it because it accrues straight away, just like annual leave. And it also means that if you need to take a few hours of annual leave instead of a full day, or a few hours of sick leave instead of a full day because of something, you can do that. Under this system, you can't do that.
I hear that. I kind of I do actually like that, but I'm talking about I don't like the idea of accruing sick leave. That doesn't. I don't know. You should be given a set amount, maybe a set amount of hours coherent to 10 days. Definitely. Accruing, or maybe it should be at the very least 10 days. The amount of, I don't know how many hours are in 10 days. Hey Google, how many hours are there in 10 days?
240. No.
240. Yeah, you got it.
No.
You got it. Yeah, 240 hours. this year, and then it accrues at a set amount of period after you've worked at that company for 12 months. I'm not opposed to that.
No, but it doesn't make sense because accruing it, you have to wait 6 months anyway.
I'm not opposed to accruing annual leave because my annual leave accrues. I didn't actually realize that other places aside from a salary worker doesn't have that. Is that true?
Yes, it does. They all accrue.
Yeah.
Everything accrues. Yeah, it all accrues.
So that was the thing. That was the problem I had. So for the new system is that for every hour it's 4 minutes. 4 minutes of 4 minutes of annual leave every hour you work. Was it varied before? Like that's the thing I'm kind of like whatever about. It's the sick leave I'm a bit
So basically, what happens?
weird about.
What's happening is at the moment you have to wait 6 months. If you start a job, you have to wait 6 months before you're even allowed to use sick leave. Anyway, from day one, when you have the job, when the new system comes, you'll start accruing it. So it's a good system, and it means that people aren't going to call in sick because they feel like lazy people anymore. You don't I was talking to my boss actually about this.
I do have to say it does, yeah, but sometimes it works for you. So
and I said to him, and I was talking to him. I said, if it was up to me, there'd be no sick leave, and I'd make people budget for it if I was in charge. But we have to make concessions, for unions or whatever. But the thing is
what? You would make people budget?
No, not really make people budget, but we just wouldn't have all this leniency with the employment.
You'd pay people more, better pay to compensate. So people can have the ability to budget.
I mean, we could afford it if we didn't have to pay for all the rest of the stuff. But that's okay. That's beside the point. But with this new system, it is better because it means that it will also make it easier on businesses to conduct their for their payroll as well.